Right guys, I wanted to make a really advanced video on how to conquer any social anxiety and any fear. This is a unique video. I'm going to explain why. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe to my channel if you want to get more control over your social anxiety and you want to get better at learning how to cope with fear and anxiety and being able to face fear so you can build confidence and move forward in your life in so many different ways and different areas. So I'm about to go and do my free fearless meetup today. I've got exactly half an hour, and what made me want to make this video, and I know it will help so many people, right? Is I wanted to talk today to you guys about, and girls, because I can see by your comments, a lot of you tell me the negative thoughts you're having about going into certain social situations that you have been avoiding and putting off because of what might happen, because of those continuous patterns in your head. Like a guy said, he's nervous to go and speak to women in case they think he's a creep, or they get upset, or they think he's negative and so forth. And then, you know, some of you girls on the channel have said you got anxious fears about social situations, and some of you have said you don't feel like being pushed into being social although you have anxiety. So let me explain something. I find it very fascinating, the build up towards facing any fear, and I've been able to break it down today, having gone through it so many times in my life. And it used to get me years ago. I couldn't get past it, where now I can. So let me give an example. Before any fear that you're going to face or any social situation, you can expect, number one, a series of worrying, negative, intrusive thoughts about what you're worried about, what could happen, or what might happen, or worst case scenario. For example, you're nervous about going to a social event in case you get anxious in front of people, or in case you feel awkward or you don't know what to say, or in case you don't like the people, you feel that people don't like you and they're going to be scrutinizing you or judging you in a negative way. Not to say that any of this is true. Usually most of our thoughts are not true. They're just paranoid thoughts. But nonetheless, expect that to happen, because that's human. The second thing to follow will be your bodily reactions, sensations in the body, where your fight or flight starts kicking in, your adrenaline starts kicking in. I find this is the bit that usually scares most people out of taking action, facing social fears, or fears of giving a presentation, or going on a date, or going to a group event. And I know this is all true because of my experience and having, you know, worked with so many people over the years, and the amount of people that have said they're going to come to one of my free events even in the past years ago, and then they don't turn up. And the reason, and they make an excuse, and I do understand it. You know, I'm not judging or anything like that, because I've done that myself. I've backed out of dentist appointments, job interviews, because of the anxiety. So, interestingly enough, I wouldn't have been able to do this video that I'm doing now prior to going to an event several years ago. The reason was, I wasn't as experienced and as relaxed and good at dealing with my anxiety in this situation as I currently am now. And that was because back then I lacked some of the understanding as to why I was feeling the way I was feeling and how to deal with it. Back then I thought, it's bad that I feel this, you know, it's bad that I have some nervousness giving a presentation or teaching or meeting new people. I labelled it as a bad thing. I'm not good enough, or something. I have some character flaw. Where I don't do that anymore. I don't do that as much, because I know actually fundamentally that's not true, because everyone is feeling like this. The problem is a lot of people won't admit it, and there was a long time in my life where I wouldn't admit it, because there's something in human beings that we don't like admitting our fears to other people and showing weakness. I mean, a lot of you do on the channel, which is great, but generally people don't. I didn't want to admit that. It made me feel like I was going to be less of a person. So back then I struggled with my own relationship with fear and anxiety prior to facing it. And I remember I used to get such bad panic attacks a build-up of panic and anxiety on the day of going to giving a presentation or giving a talk or hosting a meetup. Now, if I'm being really honest with you today, am I nervous and anxious? I don't feel it. Emotionally, no. That's why I'm able to make this video, which I'm really happy about. Proud of myself. Really am proud of how far I've come. Psychologically, there's a natural bit of worry because I want people to be happy today when I go to the event. I've got a little bit of pressure, but it's nothing that I can't handle. And that's because I've practiced it. So all of the prior videos I've been putting out during the quarantine, it's all the things they're all the things that work that I'm saying today. The exposure therapy, the practice of momentum, and it's really about, at the end of the day, no one can do this for you. Teachers or friends or the videos on YouTube can all be a bit of support and help, and they do a lot for you, I know that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's you that has to deal with your own feelings in your body. So as I'm explaining this video, I'm giving you the whole blueprint on how to do this, and I find it's all mind over matter, or mind over fearful emotions, anxiety, panic, all those feelings that we generally don't like to feel, that don't feel pleasant. What I can say is, through experience, I never would have believed I could have progressed so far. Bearing in mind, as I've said, I have a mental health condition. I've had it all my life. I just became a parent a couple of years ago when I had the breakdown, right? On a road back to recovery. So I'm always going to suffer with anxiety, whatever you call it, generalized anxiety or just panic. I get it, even when I'm on my own, because of my upbringing, and we all do to a large degree, some more than others. That's not really my point. My point is, I have trained myself to face it and manage it in areas where I want to excel. And the reason why I had to do this, because I really wanted to make my life have some meaning and significance, and the best way to do that was for me to help other people, which I've always enjoyed and found challenging in a good way. So as I explain in this video, I really am confident this is really going to help you. So the greatest thing today for me is, and I hope it can be the same for everyone watching this video, is I can now compare myself to today to how I used to be in the past. And in the past, I wouldn't have been able to make a YouTube video before an event because I was so stressed out and anxious and worried prior to the event that I wasn't really able to speak to our God. And now, bearing in mind, years ago when I had all those feelings, once I got there, I was always brilliant in the situation. You know, once I gave the talk, people would never really believe I was going through that inner turmoil, but I was, you know. And I've realized that it's really silly to label these things as so bad, because everyone goes through them, and I later learned that more and more now. It doesn't matter what walk of life you're from or what background. It really doesn't care for money and fame and even what education you've got, university and so forth, degrees. Fact is, you're human, you're going to have these fears. Even confident people have them. It's all about how you deal with it. And that's the difference between people who excel in life and people who don't. They've just learnt to deal with it better. And what I can say is, another thing I forgot to mention, there's always what I call a mini depression. If you're fearful about something, for example, any social anxiety, we're using social anxiety as an example, right? It doesn't have to be that, because I do realise not everyone has got classic psychological, termed social anxiety disorder, but people do have fears and anxiety. There's a mini depression. I always used to get it, where you don't feel good before you're going to go and do it, and that's just really the fear and the emotions and your adrenals, your adrenaline running, that's causing this stress and feelings of unpleasant. But when you face it and you're in the middle of the experience and it ends later on, there's always a great euphoric high, which I absolutely love, and I've always been trying to get that across over YouTube to all of you over the years. Some of you are getting it, some of you are still trying to get your head around it. So for me, it's about understanding this. But what I can say is, I'm going to keep saying it, I'm not going to stop saying it. No matter how much you try, I'm sorry, I'm not going to agree with a lot of people, and I'm never going to agree on it because I know it isn't true. You can't get this by reading a book, and I'm going to explain why. Because reading the book, although it can give you the intellectual insight and somewhat understanding of, you know, why you have social anxiety or any fear and how you can overcome it. It's not the same as you actually going through it and doing it. I'll paraphrase that and explain that again. So someone who has a hard time going to social events and meeting new people, which I know a lot of you do, right? And I know some of you are not going to admit that yet. Fair enough, that's your choice, right? I think honesty is the best policy. Reading a book on how to learn to deal with those feelings that you're dealing with, that you're not comfortable with, that you shy away from, it ain't going to solve the problem. The only way to solve the problem is by you actually working through those feelings and going to that social event, no matter how frightened you feel. You know, and it's, if I'm coming across any kind of way too strong for people, or I'm really not, I'm just being honest, I'm being genuine, because it's a tough task dealing with these things, but it's one that anyone can do, because if I could do it, I was a complete nervous, petrified, nervous wreck, then anyone else can do it with practice. And the more you practice, I'm learning, the better it feels. Now I'm getting these good emotions. I couldn't feel these emotions before, good emotions. One of you said this in my videos years ago. You said, most of my life I've spent within bad emotions. I don't really know what it feels like to have happy emotions because my social anxiety is so intense. I relate to that. I'm at a stage in my life where there's still a lot of changes happening, even in my late 30s. I'm still, you know, dealing with things in the past and letting go of them and getting into a better place and helping other people, right? And when I'm sharing these videos, I'm not just talking about the present. As I do, I go back into the past to use experiences to help others and hear. But yeah, what you're seeing at the moment is, you're seeing I'm not a perfect person, clearly not, and I really do get days of terrible anxiety and fear. But today you're seeing a result of someone who has been to a lot of social events, put on a lot of events, and is starting to come to a point where they are not, my body is not reacting so fearfully as it used to, because I've done a lot of exposure therapy and I've become very desensitized within this specific area and some other areas. So it doesn't matter what area you want to conquer with social fear or anything, it's working through it and going through it, and it won't kill you, you know, it feels like it will, but you are strong enough to get through it. So I really wanted to explain that really significant point before you face any fear, the night before, on the day. You know, on the day is really where fighters will talk about it, boxers, all kinds of people will speak about it. We all share one thing in common, we all go through it. And like I said, I would really avoid the academic side of just reading about anxiety disorders. It's all about facing them and confronting them. And if you can't do it, then I've always said get a specialist, get a therapist, or go and see your local doctor, tell your parents, or if you can manage it, watch my videos and go and take action. So through practice you get better at it, and then you get the better intellectual understanding. Because my intellectual understanding, guys, it doesn't come from reading books, it comes from doing it and then being able to reflect afterwards and look at the results that I've got and helped others, and see where I used to be to where I have been now, and see how much, basically the way you measure, common sense here, the way you measure your progress is how much more confident you feel and how much more relaxed you feel in stressful, fearful, socially anxious situations, where you can compare to how you used to be. So it's all about practice, and it's all about learning to just calm the feelings down when they do come. Look, but yeah, not going against the fact that you're human, and no one is less of a person because they have fear before doing things. If everyone's honest, everyone feels like that until they get to a point where they've practiced it enough and calmed down, right? So that's the way that you deal with any social anxiety, conquer it in any period, in any situation. Most of this, I'd say today, is about conquering the fear of going to events and meeting new people. But the same practice can be applied to anything: first dates, speaking to strangers in public, job interviews, speaking in front of the camera, and so forth. So become fearless, because when you do, your life becomes limitless. Let me know if this helps you in the box below, and I'll see you next video.